You're walking around asking people in this crowd if they need medical. And you talked earlier about treating a couple, I don't know, somebody at the 59th Street car source, right?
Minor injuries.
Minor injuries. When you were walking around outside that property, when you're out in the street announcing what you're announcing, did anybody respond and say, yeah, I need help from you?
Yes.
When was that?
I don't recall an exact time, but somebody cut their finger open and I gave them some gauze and some bandage tape.
Was that before or after this? Do you remember?
Before.
Where physically did that happen?
I don't recall.
And was this a situation where you announced or yelled out that you could help and then somebody said, yeah, I need some help? Was that what went on in that situation?
Yes.
As you're walking along here, from this point until the end, until you shoot Rosenbaum and Huber and Grosskreutz, no one in this crowd ever says to you, yeah, I do need medical. Come over and help me. Correct?
Yes.
That's correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let's continue. This is the individual who accuses you of pointing your gun at them, right?
Yes.
And he says that you did so when he was on a vehicle, right?
Yes.
And in fact, he had been at the 59th Street car source location, climbing on, sitting on, jumping on one of the vehicles in that lot, hadn't he?
Not that I'm aware of. I know I heard Joanne Fiedler testify to that, but I don't remember seeing him at that location.
But he accuses you of that here.
He does.
And you tell him, basically, yeah, I did point the gun at you, right?
I shrugged it off and said, yeah, I did, sarcastically, meaning I didn't, but I just didn't want a confrontation, so I was like, I did, and walked away.
Why did you lie to him?
I didn't lie to him. I was using sarcasm.
The words you said, yeah, I did, those weren't true, were they?
Your Honor, this is ridiculous. We're now fighting over sarcasm. This is a murder trial.
He says sarcasm, he says it's a lie, and he's hard to examine on it. Go ahead.
When you told that individual, yeah, I did point a gun at you, that wasn't true, was it?
I didn't point a gun at him.
So why did you react to him that way in that particular moment?
I thought that would be the best way to avoid conflict. I just said, yeah, I did, sarcastically, like, I don't know what you're talking about.
What conflict were you trying to avoid?
Any conflict, if he would have got, like, he was accusing me of something I didn't do, so I thought the best thing the best thing to do would be to walk away instead of getting into some argument. So,
But you didn't just walk away. You said to him sarcastically, yeah, I did.
I said sarcastically, I did, and walked away.
Because you were worried about a conflict. What conflict were you worried about?
A verbal argument.
This individual is clearly expressing to you that he's unhappy because he thought you pointed your gun at him, correct?
Yes.
And you can understand why someone would be upset when you point an AR-15 at them, correct?
Yes.
You knew that even before this, right?
Yes.
In fact, back at the 59th Street car source, that crowd that you've described as not having any friction, many in that crowd got upset because they thought people in your group were pointing their laser pointers at them. Do you remember that?
I saw it in the videos, but I don't know what other people were doing.
I'm not saying anybody actually was. I'm saying the crowd was upset, and you knew that. You heard them complaining, correct?
Watching the videos, yes.
And even at that time, that night, you heard the crowd upset because they thought members of your group were pointing their laser pointers at them. Do you remember that from that night?
Sorta, yes or no. I remember Ryan Balch saying something like telling the people to stop pointing their lasers at people or something. I don't really remember that.
Ryan Balch was telling the people in your group to stop doing that,
The people on the roof
who were part of your group, right?
that were there, yes.
So, you know, when we're talking about laser pointers, we're talking about the sight at the end of some guns that helps, almost like this, right? If somebody does this at me, you know, that could be someone pointing a gun, correct?
It could be seen as that.
And that's what the crowd was complaining about, right?
Yeah.
So you knew from that crowd incident, and you certainly knew from this incident, that when people have guns pointed at them, it can really escalate the situation, correct?
Yeah, I don't think anybody had lasers on their guns. I think
Yeah, but let's go back to your group at 59th Street, because you actually didn't know any of those people other than Dominic and Nick Smith, right?
yes.
You had just met Ryan Balch for the first time 3 or 4 hours before this video, right?
Yeah.
You had just met Jason Lakowski for the first time, just actually only a few minutes before this, right? Because he didn't get in until 10:45.
Correct.
So at this point in the video, I don't know, this is probably about 11:30 or so at night,
I met him about 35 minutes prior to that.
and probably had only spent, what, 10, 15 minutes at all in the same location as Jason Lakowski before you walk south?
Yes.
So again, Jason Lakowski was someone you'd never met before that night,
Correct.
and you barely spent any time with him that night, correct?
Correct.
And of course, the people up on the roof, other than Dominic Black and Nick Smith, you didn't know any of them before that night either, correct?
I knew Dominic Black and Nick Smith, but the people on
I misspoke their
yeah,
names.
sorry.
Dominic Black and Nick Smith.
I knew those are the two people I knew on the roof.
Other than that, you didn't know anyone else before this night. Fair?
Correct.
Now, when this little interaction that we've just watched happens, you're still walking with Ryan Balch, aren't you?
I'm not. I thought I was at the time, but seeing hindsight view, I'm not.
When you decided to cross 60th with Ryan Balch, you two talked about the fact that if you get separated, to go back to the 59th Street car source, right?
I don't recall that conversation happening.
But you tried to do that, didn't you?
I did.
Because you felt like if I'm out here by myself, that's not good. I need to head back, right?
Yes.
And you also talked to Ryan Balch about the fact that when you get out into this crowd, keep your mouth shut. Don't antagonize them. Didn't Ryan talk to you about that?
No, we didn't talk about that.
So at this very moment, you're telling us you've lost track of Ryan Balch.